All right, we're going to go ahead and set our timer for 1 hour. We're going to talk about some motivation, some meditation, some inspiration, possibly get a couple of energy readings go here. Like I was saying, some lucky people will be able to get their energy read. We're going to go ahead and start talking about how we can put ourselves in a place of focus, how we can give ourselves permission to work through the challenges that we go through. We may look at a couple of motivational quotes here. So let's go ahead and start. So as we put ourselves in that place, as we ask these questions every single day, as I ask them on a constant basis, is it about motivation? Is it about meditation? Is it about inspiration? If it's not one of the three, I don't want it. And so are you putting yourself in that place where you're giving yourself that kind of permission, where you're asking yourself the question, what challenges can I face off against? What types of things can I do? What kind of place can I be? What kind of mentality can I have? And today, as we start to look at one Bill Gates quotes, we're going to go start looking into the mentality here. We're going to talk about the mentality that Bill Gates had and what brought him to the place where he is. Let's go ahead and say some of this quote here. First quote, all right. Success is a loose teacher. It succeeds smart people and seduces smart people into thinking they can lose. And so are we putting ourselves in a place where mentality is such a level that we're pushing ourselves to the point of failure, where we're pushing ourselves to the place where we're achieving things, where the reflection is starting to radiate outwards? So as we recognize Bill Gates here, we honor the mentality here, we start to look and we start to recognize this for ourselves. Your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. So are you giving yourself the permission to sit down with you, to face off against the challenges that you face off against on a daily basis? Are you giving yourself that place? Are you putting yourself into those kinds of challenges? Are you asking yourself this kind of thing? So here we go, talking about how we can utilize the things that we have, how we utilize other people. I choose a lazy person to do a hard job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. So in other words, if we put ourselves in that place, if we find that mentality, if we give ourselves that ability, we start to recognize that what we have inside is what matters. We start to get to that place inside of ourselves. Power comes not from knowledge, but from knowledge shared. So if we're connecting it, if we're putting ourselves in a place where we're utilizing it, getting down with his mentality is a very interesting thing here. Let's go ahead and pull up another quote. Don't compare yourself with anyone in the world. If you do so, you are insulting yourself. Wow, talking about self-reflection, talking about understanding oneself, talking about getting down with one on the inside, getting to that grind, getting to that place where we're starting to get to that mentality where it's you versus you. If you are born poor, it's not your mistake. But if you die poor, it is your mistake. So in other words, you can't change where you started. You can't change who you are. You can only allow yourself to utilize the mentality that you have to achieve the things that you want to achieve. And so if you recognize this, if you recognize these kinds of challenges, if you give yourself this kind of place, then the ability, the mentality, the challenges that we face off against on a daily basis, we have the ability to overcome. Are you asking yourself these types of questions? Are you asking yourself, are you allowing the things that you've been through to stop you? Or are you utilizing them so that you can become wealthy in this universe in a way with the utilization of the tools and the gifts that you have? And so a lot of ourselves, we don't give ourselves that permission. We don't give ourselves that place. We don't give ourselves those kind of challenges. If your culture doesn't like geeks, you are in real trouble. So in other words, be yourself. Be that geek that you are inside. Be honest with that person. Be honest with those challenges. Give yourself that kind of permission. Give yourself that kind of place. As we look ahead into the next century, leaders will be those who empower others. Are you seeing the ability to put yourself in that place? Are you giving yourself that kind of permission? Are you giving yourself that kind of challenge? Are you answering those kind of questions for yourself? Are you seeing those kind of blessings? Price is what you pay. Value is what you get. So in other words, the recognition of the ability to master the law of riches is the reason why he got where he did. Because he wanted to provide a service so great that the value was outnumbered. The magnification of the universal energy that was being used in the mentality tells me this person invested in good friendships. He invested in things. His mentality was a place of investment. He had a place of understanding of the law of riches. Understanding when you give, you receive more. Putting ourselves in a place where we have that ability. And so when we give ourselves this, the ability to utilize it, the ability to get down with it, the ability to get down with ourselves to the point where we do utilize what we have inside. Don't compare yourself with anyone in this world. If you do so, you are insulted. So don't insult yourself by trying to compare yourself to somebody else. This is per Bill Gates mentality. He put himself in a place where he recognized that it ain't somebody else's job, okay? If you're not putting it in front of yourself, if you're not giving yourself the permission, if you're not putting yourself down where you're utilizing a high level, where you're breaking through your ceilings, you're not letting other people dictate your ability, you're not letting them get the part of you down because your mentality is elevating. If you're not comparing it to anybody else but yourself, then the blessings and the ability to utilize it is for you. And so what other types of mentality are out there? What does he have to say? So in other words, embrace bad news to learn where you need the most improvement. Are we putting ourselves on that page? Are we writing this stuff down? Are we giving ourselves this kind of time? Are we making sure that when we see these things, we're working on them, where we're not just ignoring them, but we're facing off against our challenges? Don't compare yourself with anyone else. In other words, it was all about him recognizing there was no one that was going to do it for him. If he didn't truck his own path, no one else would. So let's go ahead and take a look here at some more of these quotes. Now, here we are. We didn't simulate this. We didn't practice. So are we on a life journey? Are we seeing the path? Are we seeing the process? Are we giving ourselves the time to allow ourselves to be in that place, to use this universe in such a way? The key to the job market is far more this education dilemma. Our job mismatch is an education problem. So if we are allowing ourselves to utilize the gifts that we have, then we focus on the things that we have, not on the things that we don't have. If we put ourselves in that kind of a place where the mentality starts to radiate outwards from there, then we have the ability to overcome these types of things. And so are you allowing yourself into it? Are you allowing yourself through it? Are you passing through it? And so are we giving ourselves that place where the mentality is that ability, where we recognize our purpose, we recognize our path, we focus to that level, we focus to that place, we give ourselves that kind of permission? A lot of times that's what we're asking ourselves, right? We're asking ourselves, can we do this? Can we achieve this? Can we become this? We're focusing to that level. So another one is, I can understand wanting to have millions of dollars, but once you get beyond that, I have to tell you, it's the same hamburger. So in other words, if you put yourself in the mentality now, then at the same exact time when you achieve that, at the same exact place that you achieve that, at the same exact challenges that you achieve that, then the ability inside of yourself starts to radiate from that light. The ability inside of yourself starts to utilize it. It starts to get down with the part inside of you. And so what is it going to take for you to be there with you? You know, like, are you giving yourself this kind of permission? That's what he's trying to say. Hey, look inside of you. Look at the place inside of you. Recognize that. And so can you see his mentality here? Can you see the ability? And the thing is, he just wanted to do his own thing. He just wanted to be his own person. He wanted to recognize that it was to be who he was and he is, to have that kind of mentality, to have that kind of a place, to have that kind of ability. And so what is it going to take for you to do that? What is it going to take for you to put yourself in that place where you can recognize what Bill Gates was utilizing was himself? So are we giving ourselves that place? Are we using our gifts? Are we giving ourselves the answers to the questions that we have? Are we recognizing that when you do it for yourself, when you give yourself that kind of permission, when you give yourself that kind of place, when you give yourself that kind of challenge, that you have the ability to overcome it? You have the ability to be who you are, to say the things that you want to say, to be the person that you want to be. And so that comes with the ability to write it down. That comes with the ability to use the tools that you have. And so we start using these kind of tools. We start recognizing those kind of people move out of our way. We start to recognize that these kind of abilities are blessings, that these kind of challenges are there for you and I, and that we can overcome them. Are you giving yourself that kind of permission? Are you putting yourself in that kind of a place where you give yourself that kind of permission? Are we with ourselves, or which team are you on? Are you on your team? Blessings. Are you on your journey? Are you on your path? Are you putting it down in front of yourself where the tools, the things that you have, the abilities that you have inside of yourself, the things that you go through, put your energy in the right place? And so it is welcome for people to ask for energy readings. I will definitely do some energy readings. But I want to get your mind in the place where you utilize it. I want you to see that Bill Gates' mentality, the quotes that Bill Gates used, the mentality that he had was a place of focus. It was a place of utilization, and that when he was going through those things, he was using the mentality to get to that place for himself. That means if he can do it, you can too. If he means that he could achieve that, you can as well. But you have to recognize your gifts. You have to recognize your challenges. You have to recognize your ability to be you. And so one of these tools that helps us to do that is the ability to start to write stuff down. It's the ability to put it in front of yourself. It's about asking yourself the question. It's about getting to that place where what you have inside is you. And so when we start to face off against ourselves and we start to put it in front of us and we start to write it down and we start to give it permission to start working in your life, sometimes the thing that we're waiting for is the ability to be there for ourselves. So every single day I ask myself the question, is it about motivation? Is it about meditation? Is it about inspiration? If it's not one of the three, I don't want it. And every day I talk about focus for the first 30 minutes, the ability to get there where the reflection radiates outwards. I spend about 10 minutes or so looking at one of the world leaders or people that have affected the world in such a way that their mentality can be showing that the ability to utilize focus to that level can move the things for you that are not meant for you. So the universe and the Most High can work through you so that the ability to utilize this universe in such a way that your mentality can be there, that your ability can be there, that the things that you go through, you have the ability to overcome. And so it's up to you to hear what I'm saying and hear it for yourself, to recognize that when you focus to that point where you start facing off against the things that you go through on a daily basis, when you truly start to write it down, when you truly start to see it in front of yourself, when you truly start to put the mentality in place, when you truly start to give yourself permission to put yourself in a place where you're utilizing what you have, when you truly start utilizing what you have, and you truly start speaking your mind, and you truly start being who you are on the inside, that the reflection that radiates outwards will move the things out of the way that aren't meant for you. This means as you focus, the things that are meant for you will start moving in your direction. The people, the places, the challenges, they will move in your direction. It's up to you to see the positivity there. It's up to you to recognize that you are a blessing. It's up to you to challenge it. It's up to you to get to that place where what you have inside radiates outwards, that the ability for you to focus to that level has a place and an ability to work through you. And a lot of times people ignore this. They ignore their ability. And so that's why it's about motivation, meditation, and inspiration. It's about getting to that mentality. It's about getting to that place where you're utilizing this, where you're allowing your ceiling to increase. You're allowing your blessings in your day to increase. You're allowing your ability inside of yourself to start opening up to the process of you, to the journey of you. And so the tools are all around you. The tools are always going to be there for you. It's up to you to pick them up. It's up to you to choose to search after positivity. It's up to you to put yourself in a place where you face off against the challenges that you're going to go through. It's up to you to see yourself in your world. It's up to you to make the world that you want for yourself. It's up to you to put yourself in a place where your mentality has a place of focus, where you have an able mentality. Before you even start heading inwards, the ability to manifest it on the outside, the ability to focus to the level where when you are writing stuff down, you're 100% honest with yourself. You're writing everything that's on top of your mind so you can start to see how to turn it positive, how to put it in a way that it no longer has the ability to crush you. It has no longer the ability to stop you, has no longer the ability to stop that mentality from becoming an able mentality, from becoming an able ability. And one of those ways is with energy. It's to understand the energy inside of your body and how it flows. And that's why I give away energy readings. That's why people come and seek me out. If you want a singular energy reading, a private energy reading, I can do those as well. So I do leave the Periscope open for people to call in to be able to get energy readings for themselves. And so you can either reach through to me and get a private or a open energy reading. And that's what the purpose here is for us to find this mentality. So as I started when I was 27 with meditation, as I started to put myself in that place, as I was working through the hundreds of thousands of people that I was working with, over 100,000 people I spoke to in the last 7 years. So as we put ourselves in that kind of a place with that kind of mentality, the ability for the liberation starts to become possible. So what I'm talking about is the ability. I'm talking about what we have inside. I'm talking about the challenges that we face off against on a daily basis so we can overcome the things that we want to overcome. Blessings. Blessings.
Yeah, blessings, man. Blessings. How you doing?
Very good, very good. So you use your thought process a lot, huh?
Huh?
A lot of the time you think a lot, huh?
Yeah, you know how we do it, man. We have to be able to decipher what's really going on with people when they're talking because they don't even know what they're saying.
Sure, not a problem. All I know is how to use this thing from the Most High as a tool of being this. And I used to go, yep. Well, I've been doing, yeah, I can tell. I can tell that you use a lot of your thought process. Even if you do some kind of a job where it requires some physical, it's not the big side for you. The mentality sitting down and doing the thinking. You like the yellow color. You like that thought process, the ability to get yourself moving with that kind of energy. And I imagine even if you look around, you probably have some yellow somewhere.
Give me the yellow again one more time.
So yellow means thought process.
Oh yeah, right, yeah, absolutely. I mean that's a constant. So I mean, obviously.
So I understand. See, I'm just a tool in the universe. Even without seeing you, I can read the energy inside of your body. I've been
there for anybody that wants to partake of it. So you're the one that's partaking. So you're the one that's testifying.
So it's there. And I mean, I started doing these years ago in a sense that I'd go and sit in a sauna and I'd talk to people and I could start seeing their energy and I was bypassing hours inside the sauna. So I'd start a conversation with somebody and I could actually read the energy and start where they were at to have a conversation with them. You know what I mean?
It's a trip, ain't it?
Well, it's a blessing. I mean, each of us have our own individual tools. Even biblically, they're talked about. You know, there's people that were revelators, and there were people that were seers, and there were people that had different gifts. I just know the gift that I have is to be able to read the energy inside a human being. You know.
Right. You know, and that's good, man. That's good. We need. I mean, I wish there was a whole lot more people that would pick up on the positive energy rather than the negative, but I understand why they're picking up negative because the positive person made a mistake and said, oh, I'm going to listen to what this person's saying. And if you listen too long, sometimes you get a foothold in your thought process, and it gets a foothold in your actions, and then that's what we're talking about, actions. So
Yep.
we could change this. You know, it's not impossible.
Well, that's what I've been doing. I started motivation, meditation, inspiration. I went through 3.5 years of telesales, 2.5 years of car sales, and drove over 14,000 people doing rideshare. And so at a certain point, I started getting down to the point where people were starting to get in the car, and I could read their energy as they were in the car with me and start a conversation with them. Last 7 years, over 100,000 people figured, okay, get online, start giving out some free energy readings. Then people were like, hey, can we pay you for this? You know what I mean?
That works.
So,
yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
So you operate from your yellow and your green energy fields, and the green energy field is of the matters of the heart.
Right, that's true, yes, thank you.
So you could voice yourself more, and I'm not talking about right now. As you start to voice yourself, your depth perception will start to open up more. And through your depth perception opening up more, the energy flowing through your body will start to flow, and those things that are holding you back right now will start to open up to that nervous system, so you won't feel it as much when you start to stand your ground.
That's gorgeous, dude. That's beautiful, man. Come on, keep talking.
So what you need to do is start giving yourself time to go for a walk, brother. You need to give yourself that time to just sit down and just shut down everything else and allow that place to decompress.
Yeah, right.
And so that's where a lot of the yellow thought process has to deal with the process, but it also has to deal with worry. Other energy fields get affected by this. So it's spending time in those energy fields that's most important. And so, like,
in order to sympathize, you mean, or empathize?
So in other words, the energy that flows from here to here is important. But there's energy here. See my next flex?
Yeah.
There's energy in the depth perception, and there's energy in the nervous system, and there's energy in the sciatic system, which runs the ability for you to stand your ground in all situations. So
it's connected to the trunk of your brain, right?
Yeah, well, it all is connected to the light source, and it all works through Newton's law of each action is equal and opposite reaction. So focus and knowledge is centered at the place of the classroom. So each of us are our own individual classroom. So as we focus, as we put these things in front of ourselves, the ability for them to manifest is there. So if we understand the strengths that we have, we can use our strengths to overcome our weaknesses. And the point is to get all energy fields flowing with strength throughout the whole human being, not just the matters of the heart, not just the ability to voice, not just the depth perception.
No, you're right.
And so the place that the combination with the heart, because the heart and the stomach are close to each other, so that's why you feel comfortable with those matters. Like the lower part of the heart is where the understanding is. The upper part of the heart is where the relation, because where the relation is closest to the ability to voice yourself.
That's true.
So that means that the weakness is in the nervous system. You understanding what I'm saying?
Say that one more time.
The weakness is in the nervous system.
Yeah, it's something that's a deficiency or a trauma, perhaps.
Right. So the purpose of using each individual energy field has a purpose. So it's not about what's stronger or not. It's about using what you got so you could strengthen all areas.
That's talking about everybody when we do that, because it's not just you. It's you, but it's people outside of yourself that you're gonna strengthen because you're strong.
Right, and so that's why I said I'm just a tool in the universe.
Yes, sir.
So we all are tools in the universe. And one of the biggest places where that place is lost is in the mentality. Once we allow other people to say we can't do this, we can't achieve this, we can't become this, and we stop studying on ourselves and stop putting our ability for the tools that the universe, the Most High, made for us to utilize, that's when we have the ability to become the process. And this is the purpose of Newton's third law, which is backed up by Einstein. So it's not just one way. Newton stated that for each action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So when we breathe in, we have to breathe out, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So this means there must be a student and knowledge inside to release.
That depends if you're talking about people that are in that sacred place, which are aware of the things that are going on in that place, as opposed to the people who are on the exterior, which would be the rough part, the surface of themselves. So there's two different things that are going on. If you're going to clarify, you need to clarify that.
So that's what happens is we get crushed from the outside and instead of allow the process to work. And so one of those ways is by starting to get to know yourself.
And how would you do that, my friend?
By writing stuff down. You start by picking up a pen and paper and you put it down in front of yourself, everything.
Are you telling me that you have to be honest?
With yourself. No one else.
Okay, that's what?
You have to be honest with yourself.
Well, that's going to be difficult for a lot of people, right?
And that's why, to get to the place where other people won't go, to achieve the things that others won't achieve, you have to do the things that others won't do.
Keep talking.
So that, if you're asking me how you can strengthen that, that's the answer there. And that's not only one part of it. The other part is you got to put the mentality in place where you're focusing into positivity, where you're allowing Newton's third law in the universe to work. For each action, there's an equal and opposite.
Oh, so you mean to tell me you have to retrain your hypothalamus gland?
Yep.
Oh, well, then you can explain that so people can understand what that's all about. Because the hypothalamus gland, as you know, and I'm not going to go into it because this is your scope, but just with a gentle reminder that it does control the temperature of the body, no doubt, and women or men are different in that aspect.
Sure.
At the same time, it has other things that it's responsible for, and that's the knee-jerk responses to what you do. So pick it up, bro.
So what happens is when we do meditation, which I'll show you how precise I am on my time. Do you see this 30 minutes? In about 2 minutes, I'm going to start talking about self-study. But right now, as we're working on focus at this current moment, we're going to talk a little bit more about that before we head inwards.
Okay.
So the ability to hijack the nervous system is what you're talking about, which is definitely able to be done, which I proved in over literally walking in a sauna and staying in there for 5 hours and then walking out for an additional 3. So the ability to do that is there. Now, the problem is a lot of people don't find inside of themselves the mentality to have the able mentality that the external is a reflection of their mind. The body is clay to the mind.
Okay, can I say something real quick?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so when you talk about the mind, right, now we're talking about where the battlefield is. This is where the battlefield is. And there's two ways into the mind. It's through the eye gate and the ear gate. So now we got a little bit more insight. So what are we talking about now?
So what we're talking about is the ability for you to start to focus to the point where the process becomes a foundation where the energy starts to flow into the body. So
okay, but that requires that sacred place you were talking about.
Hold on, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Okay,
so if you can't master what's on the outside, you can't master what's in you.
Well, okay, yeah.
So if you can't get the mentality to achieve things, then the ability to go inwards doesn't even start to have a purpose. And this is where we start heading inwards. So this is where we start heading inwards. So
how can you on a yacht somewhere fishing and eating caviar, dude?
Oh man, I've been at this meditation game for nearly a decade. People walk up to me, I could read their energy and start a conversation within seconds. I know. So what I'm saying is that it's something that is available, like yes. As we head inwards now. As we head inwards, this is where Einstein comes into play.
Okay.
So
hold on, she said something.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yes.
So she asked me if I was enlightened. So
Yes. Right.
what I'm gonna say,
Illuminated. Illuminated.
yeah. So what I'm gonna say is that it's up to you to liberate yourself. I don't have to answer that. You answer that for yourself. Do you see self study here? So that answers the question for itself. All people that come to me to learn from me, when I sit down and I teach meditation, and when I sit down and I help and I mentor people, they're ultimately coming to me to learn how to use the tools within themselves to help themselves.
Well, that's right. Because outside of themselves, they could do a lot better, but they need the help on the inside. And that's where you come in to give them that recognition of that. You can do this and take care of this and do it like this, and then they get when they perform on the outside of themselves, they're becoming more successful, and life is getting much better because now they get to do the things that they weren't able to do before because they didn't have that help from the person that came over and helped them on the inside.
So as soon as it manifests from the outside and you start to give yourself the ability to face off against them and turn them positive, then you become a tool in the universe. The energy starts to come inwards. Now, when we start to break down the energy inside of ourselves, it works in the way that our mind is the reader. And so the place in which that mind is within the lotus itself, which sits centrally here. So all energy fields that exist within the whole body are controlled by the source reading inside of your body. So each energy field is a chapter of you. Einstein stated that mass and energy are interchangeable sources. So this means that your breath and your body proves Einstein correct. So because Einstein's correct, the utilization of that is available to you. So it works as your mind is the reader, your central light source, your body is the book, the mass, the same physical entity, and your brain is the pages changing into each other with the breath. So the connection to be that book is as simple as a book being set on a table. Now, it's not that kind of book because each individual energy field has chapters, has pages. And so, as that chapter of that energy field is, the pages are all the experiences that you face off against in your whole entire being in each individual way that's related to that exact part of you.
But there's a lot of traumas in the early childhood recollections of traumas in people's lives, and there's guaranteed to be at least one, two, or at least three, if not more.
And that's okay because through meditation, when you start to head inwards, which we can definitely see here is on time. Okay? Time is on time, 27 minutes. I'm into my about meditation. So meditation is self-study. It's getting down those energy fields, breaking down those things to the first seed of knowledge. So this means that if you meditate enough and you focus inwards, you start extracting the knowledge inside of yourself with the tool of focus, which is a foundation to the ability to understand the process of oneself. So as
That's
you,
helpful.
yes, well, I'll give you an example. I got in a car accident.
For some people, but other people, that's not going to be so helpful because of the fact that when they had the experience, right? The initial experience of a trauma, right?
And this is where we go.
Now we have to go back at this.
All right, ready? I had a car accident. I displaced both of my hips. Left and right hip was out of place. My vertebrae behind my belly button. My neck became elongated. I walked into a chiropractor, like 3-4 generation chiropractor, one of the best in San Diego. I walked inside there. He looked at my back and he told me, this is the worst strained back I've ever seen in my entire life.
Wow.
I looked at myself, okay? I looked at myself and I said to myself, well, I can either end up in a wheelchair or I can become a yogi. When people see me sitting there with my legs folded in full lotus for an hour straight, which has been videotaped, when they see me in a place where I'm doing stuff that they think and say is impossible, and they say, hey, you're flexible. Oh, to be flexible, it's way beyond that. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is, at the time that happened, I had to go back into that index book of meditation, where that breath was and find the incident that happened, relive that incident, and overcome it with my breath.
Okay, that's a technique. That is a technique that you are talking about. One technique that is useful, as I said. But to go back at these times of traumas, right? When you take someone back to those times, they're not only going back to experience that, but they're going back with options to how they feel about.
So this is where the first place takes part.
Okay.
When you focus to the point where you write down everything, and I mean everything, we have the ability to overcome these things. And we find that the reflection that is found from focus is motivation, strength, and the ability for fear and emotion to move out of the way. So with the mentality, the able mentality to start to read that energy inside of oneself, we have the ability to overcome our challenges by reliving our challenges.
But that's the ability to take the past and make it wonderful for the future, because your past is somebody else's future. So it makes only sense that love would be involved.
So realize that in the level of mentality, you have fight and flight, slavery, emotion, time and organization, then focus and knowledge, and centered in the place is discipline. And you are the discipline. You are the classroom. So when you see somebody meditating at a lake or a river, what they're doing is they're going on a field trip with this thing.
Yeah.
So it's the same to be in a room by yourself as it is to be at a lake. It's the mentality at the lake that's letting the field trip at the lake have the place, or it's the mentality to have that place in that room to have that field trip for yourself. Both places are still experiencing things, they're just experiencing different things.
Well, it's just like I'm the same person I am on stage as I am off stage. I'm the same guy.
Exactly. So how do we get that energy to flow to that level where the energy inside of yourself starts to read the energy fields?
That's loving yourself, bro. It's just teaching people how to love themselves. And
That's it.
To give away.
Well, knowledge radiates a reflection of love. So love, when people teach self-love, they're talking about a lower level of knowledge. Because when you care about yourself at a higher level, right, what happens is the reflection is what other people identify with. So like this morning when I was sitting down and I was doing meditation, I have this person that's meditating with me in the morning. And as we're sitting there doing meditation, she gets out. She's like, I can't do it. And we're in the last 5-10 minutes of it.
Yeah.
Now this person has children as well.
Okay.
So as they're sitting there, I'm like, now aren't you learning the lesson here?
You said that?
I did. I said, do you see how you have to have patience with your kid?
But why'd you say it like that, though?
Because in life, we have to put things in front of ourselves that we want to achieve. And we have to have the patience with ourselves to work through them. That is focusing.
If you have patience with yourself, then you can have patience with the other people, because that's what it does. Love is that's a fruit.
I got you.
Anyway, right?
I already seen her do it for an hour straight before.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to push somebody overboard. What I'm trying to do is get the mentality to the place where they achieve it for themselves.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say is that when we allow that on the ability for the energy inside of ourselves, it can show as a reflection outwards. Your body...
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It's a light. That's the property of light, is to shine, like you're saying, into minds and hearts.
Exactly. And so when we use those gifts that we have, be it be on stage,
right, Vanessa,
be it be in a place, be it working through meditation, be it be through speaking to people, be it bringing the different types of energy combinations, be it being those people that are short, that stand their ground, all these different energy fields that I'm talking about that are utilized in different ways, understanding all of these is the ability to allow it to work through the process of you to use what you have.
Well, that takes effort, and people don't want to put a lot of effort into their own rehabilitation, and let me tell you why. Because when you give them a simple little exercise to do that's going to help them retrain their hypothalamus gland so they can stop doing those knee-jerk responses to the bad habits and start developing some good habits, what they do is they forget and they say, I don't want to do this no more. And they're
And
talking
this
bad
is
about
where
themselves.
tools come in.
And I tell them, look, calling yourself names and telling you're going to give up and I don't care and blah, 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 that's not going to help anything. So let's just stop that and let's get back to what you did wrong. And if you did something wrong, well, then you can see it, right?
Well, check this out. Ready? This is a really cool thing. So when we look at the angle, you can only see through your eyes, right? You can see through your eyes. I can see through my eyes.
Well, and in the given situation that you're pinpointing, yes, and being accurate, okay, then if you're talking like that, yeah, we can talk that way. But then if you're not accurate, then you could be shooting anywhere.
Okay, so I'm not talking from your angle or my angle. I'm looking at a universal angle. I'm saying both of our angles are an angle. What I'm saying is when we go beyond our angle, we have to look at Newton's third law. For each action, there's an equal and opposite.
That's because God said you reap what you sow.
Yeah. So when we allow ourselves that angle, then what we recognize is that the angle is positive and negative forces in the universe.
It does. And now some people interpret the positive as negative because they hate the truth so much they can't stand themselves.
So what we focus into is the ability to wake that person up inside and say, hey, I can do this.
Well, then that means that you're going to have to dissolve the ego because you're interested in the relationship rather than the ego problem they have, right?
So they face off against it for themselves. It's like this. You put a person in a dark tunnel and they can cry. They can get up. They can stay there. At the end of the tunnel, they're walking to the end of the tunnel. It's up to them to sit down and do the homework for themselves. It's up.
Now, have you ever had a child before?
This is an even greater part. I have not had a child before, but I have many students who have actually come.
I'm going to show you something, the difference between somebody that has a child and somebody that doesn't have a child, okay? Because there's a difference, okay? Now, people, okay. Excuse me. Look at this. And I'm not going to be like, taking over your whole thing, but people that have children, they put their love into this other person, and next thing you know, they're going to have a baby, right? So that's two people involved in this process, right? Okay. So both people get to put what they want their baby to know inside of that child when it comes into this world. And people are so eager to do this, but there are people that are distracted, like you were talking about earlier, distractions that pull us away from what's important to us. And that becomes a lot of problems because too many people don't take responsibility for their feelings and they rely on their feelings entirely too much. And when they do that, their feelings don't always accurately reflect what's going on underneath them, which is where they are. And so they get in trouble and they say, oh, I don't want to talk about that. Okay, let's not talk about that. Let's talk about what's right and true so you can get the understanding that you so desperately need. Now listen, I'm going to get off the mic. I'm sorry.
Not a problem. So check this out, though. When one elevates themselves, that shows what level they are in elevation. So a lot of people start at fight and flight. And so it's up to you to elevate it to slavery and emotion. And then from there to time and organization. And then there for focus and knowledge. So wherever one is does not change the mere fact that they're at that level. It's until they gain that knowledge to reach and elevate and pull themselves up. Like, look at ceilings, right? So each individual tool works that way too. So I'll give you an example. You give a first grade test to a 12th grader, what happens?
Well, you know what happens.
They ace it, right? You give a 12th grade test to a first grader, what happens? We might get some emotions here going on.
Yeah, right.
So this says that there's different levels of understanding per energy field. Not a singular energy field here, but through the whole entire human being.
That's right, because they put people in a position where they can delegate responsibilities and duties so that people can move forward safely, like a facilitator, takes you from one place to another place safely.
So it's to understand where somebody is in each of those individual energy fields to help them to elevate themselves.
That's a master's position.
That is what I have been doing for a very long time.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, that's a master's position, and I'm a master.
No, I understand this, and I'm really enjoying this
Okay.
conversation because we're talking at a
Right.
different level intellectually than a lot of
Yes,
people
sir.
are understanding. But
Yes, sir.
what I'm saying is that when I was driving people around, they weren't
Right.
loving themselves because they weren't getting to the place where they were getting to know themselves. So I
So how
started
did you?
doing,
Can I ask you one question real quick? 'Cause this is important. It's relevant anyway.
sure.
Is that so? Your approach to these people that you were speaking about. Now, can you give us a little insight about what it was like when you were having them? They just open the door to themselves and open up to you right away, or was it a process? If there was a process involved, could you explain that? Because that really is important to a lot of us that who are listening.
Okay. So understand that I've been doing meditation since I was 27 and I'm 34.
Okay, but you're aggressive though. You know that, right?
I understand that.
Okay, now listen to me for a second. So am I, dude.
It's a
You know,
blessing. It's a blessing.
I'm not saying it's not. I'm just not saying it's not. But like you told me, because you reminded me that if I was to follow that cab that you sent out there, and I was like, yeah, you're right, you know, and same thing for you, bro. So sometimes when you're talking, if you were listening to yourself, you'd say, man, you don't need nobody to help you, man. You got this, bro.
I do this every day. This isn't
So do
just a
I.
singular.
I don't wake up in the morning and go, well, we're in Hawaii, we ain't doing that other stuff, we're just doing this now. No, it ain't like that.
No, I'm with you. I'm saying I have this mentality on a daily basis. I just choose to share it.
We do.
And
You
I'm
can't
blessed
do it
that
if
you
you
do as
don't
well.
share.
No, it's a good thing because we need lots of people to uplift people. And that's where I talk about meditation. And this is where I start talking about connecting the two. And this is where we talk about knowledge and focus being applied. So once you start to gain the knowledge inside of yourself, to the point where you
Yeah.
see that this is a discipline, like if you're in Hawaii or you're anywhere, that's just a place. What's going on inside of you is what really matters.
Yeah, but do you think I'm messing with you right now?
No, I'm enjoying this conversation.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be too rough with you, am I?
No, this is a blessing to sit down because I'm really enjoying this conversation.
Me too, man. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I hope I didn't mess myself up because sometimes I say stuff and I think, man, you didn't have to go all like that. But I wasn't trying to go anyway. I was just trying to be cool, man.
It is
Because
cool.
look, if nobody challenges you, you know, I'm not trying to do it in a bad way. I'm doing it in a good way. So there's no harm done. It's just even better.
I understand what you're saying. What is blessing here is that as each of us see this, because there's a lot of people that haven't seen Hawaii. There's a lot of people who are stuck in a place where they need to be able to start to pick themselves up. There's a lot of
Yes.
people who need to start to focus to the place where they start to get to know themselves, where they start to see
Right.
the blessings inside of themselves. And I've been grinding on that, and I ask myself that question every day. Here's my shirt. Hold on.
Let's see. Oh, you got a shirt? Is that your shirt?
This is my shirt.
Okay. Motivation, meditation, inspiration. Okay. Yeah. The chi, not chi, but the zen and stuff like that, right?
Well, yeah, I ask myself these questions every day. Is this what I'm about to do? Is it motivation? Is it meditation? Is it inspiration? If it's not one of the three, I don't want it. So
But
I'm, huh?
after a period of time, what you're saying is that you recall these things so that you can act on it. But if you practice that over time, it becomes real time for you, so you don't even have to think about it anymore, and it becomes who you really are. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes. And so the hardest one is self honesty. The reflection
That's
of discipline, the hardest trait to work with is self honesty. If you said everything that's on your mind to every person that you come in contact with, and you were honest with yourself, you would go each individual would go much farther. But we don't give ourselves permission.
I mean, yeah, because we get in the way sometimes.
So it's getting to the place where that fear to do that moves out of the way. So the focus becomes a foundation to have self study open up itself to you for the universe to test you if what you really have is what you got. And so when you focus to that level where the knowledge starts to unthread itself from the universe and that first seed of knowledge starts the process of the ability to utilize it, we start to overcome our own challenges. And
That's
so
good stuff.
when knowledge and focus are connected, okay, in Asian and Indian languages, they're so connected that their right and left hands are connected to their right and left breaths, which means that the incoming and the outgoing becomes a process. But you see, where we center ourselves is the classroom. So you have to allow yourself to be the teacher and the student of your process.
That's not easy for a lot of people that are under the fear. So they're operating with fear, and if they don't do this and that, the fear tells them that those are not good for them.
And
so
this is where it starts. Reflection of focus is motivation. So there's people who say they can't be motivated. When you focus to a point, the reflection radiates that other people will see that you're motivated. When you are studying yourself, when you're using self-knowledge, the reflection is meditation. That's why some people that sing and do other things feel that same exact way, because they give themselves time to work on themselves. And the last piece is to connect the two of those together to a level where this becomes a discipline, to where the universe can use the tools that you have. I have. And so when we use those tools, when we use that place, when that place becomes a discipline, when people see that, like how you saw that, and you see the reflection right here, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That reflection outwards radiates as a inspiration.
Yes. Yes.
And so this is how Michael Phelps became Michael Phelps. Pelé became Pelé. This is how they did it. They understood that their focus had to focus so well into the one thing that when they did their one thing, they were so focused into it that they understood the process of focus and knowledge, that almost as if they were the right tool for the job.
That's pretty good stuff there. I mean, I like that. I like that word picture there. You know what I mean, with the words and everything, because it shows people it's like speaking Hebrew or something, pictorial language. You know,
it's awesomeness. It's inspiration is when you are truly yourself, and you are truly using your knowledge, and you are truly using your focus, and you are putting yourself in a place where you give yourself the permission to be you, and you're putting yourself in a place where you are learning, you're expanding inside of yourself, because we're always a student of our life. We're always a teacher of our life. We're always asking ourselves, is this a better position? Is this a better way? Is this a better thing? And so as we give ourselves that kind of permission, like a lot of people haven't been trained to have the personal secretary. I wish every person had their own personal secretary who wrote down, between this hour to this hour, I'm going to do this. But it doesn't work that way. So we have to do it for ourselves. We have to free ourselves. We have to free our minds. And we have to give ourselves that kind of permission to light up in the world.
Yeah, because we're those of us who are transitioning, like you were pointing out, the transition from one area to another, that transition period has got to take place. And it's coming from the one side over to the other side. So that you can enjoy the benefits that are giving you something rather than taking your energy away and wasting it.
Robert Kiyosaki stated that emotion is nothing more than energy in motion. So in other words, the emotion is where you apply the energy, is what he said.
The emotion as far as what you think, say, and do?
Yeah. So the energy that you apply to it is where it moves. So the emotion is nothing more than energy in motion. So once one starts to understand the energy inside of their body and how to operate with the energy inside to flow in such a way that it optimally performs, that centers itself inside of oneself, the utilization of oneself starts to work at a higher level of effectiveness.
That's because that is an emerging leader, and we can spot these people when this is happening because they do exactly what you just said, because what you said is going to entrain the other people if you're doing this process.
Yep, exactly. And that's what I've been doing for years, in darkness until I came to the light to share.
Well, yeah, okay, that's cool. You know, but you're a student still, so, I mean, you have to admit that.
We all are students, but we are also have the patience to share other tools. So as Bruce Lee said, when people come to me to learn from me, they're coming to me to learn from themselves.
That's a good way of looking at it, because that's true, because they wanted to learn for themselves so they could be better.
So that
was knowledge.
So that is utilization of yourself. So when they come to me and they sit down and they do their homework and they're writing stuff down and they're facing off against their challenges and the result starts to come and the manifestation starts to come out and the radiating light starts to light up in this world and they start to become a tool in the universe and the universe has the ability to utilize them, they see that they are a blessing in the universe.
And so at that point, you don't really have to do anything else because you're busy doing all this other stuff to enlighten other people, but they're definitely going to want to say something. Do you let them reach out and say, give a testimony about the work?
Ready to hear this? So one of my students already passed away. The very first student I started working with, her name was Veronica, and she went by the name of Fuchsia because everything was crushing her down. And when I met her, it was crushing down. So I told her that she was going to be from within out, Fuchsia. From within out. And so she has just actually, about 3 days ago, she went to be with the Most High.
Right.
But she wouldn't leave until I said goodbye. But she had gone on her journey because I had stopped her from being able to progress to that level. So I had to back off, you know? And so she got to that page, and on that page, I ended up reaching out to her family, and we played a meditation that she had actually done at a lake with me, and by the end of the night, she had left. So a lot of people are robbed of the ability to choose their day.
Well, I mean, it's not about, it's a gift. Life is actually absolutely a gift. It's a free gift.
I'm not saying it's me. It's the process of using that for yourself to connect yourself with that.
You have to remember that the most precious thing that there ever will be
is
in
life.
Is wisdom. And wisdom is a her.
Wisdom is knowledge and focus the process through to utilize that process. If you're not...
But there's a difference between worldly wisdom and godly wisdom. I'm not sure you have to understand which one's which.
Okay, so in the biblical, they talk about the Omega as Alpha, as the Alpha and the Omega.
Genesis to Revelation, the book of Genesis all the way to the book of Revelation. That's what the Spirit teaches, yes.
So it teaches that there's the level of Alpha, Omega.
That's God. That's the I am inside you.
The highest level of self inside self is Alpha Beta. Are you with me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Alpha Beta is known in India as Krishna and is also known as Christ consciousness, but from a different angle, it's also known as Shiva, which is the testosterone, and Shakti, which is the estrogen. So the way in which the meditation for each individual's universal purpose has a different way of meditating. So if
I agree with that.
So if your meditation is like for myself to recognize that I meditate, I need to breathe through my mouth. Whereas I'm trying to boost my levels of testosterone. Whereas if I had a Shaktiic energy needing to be utilized, I would breathe through my nose. But it does me no good to breathe through my nose. Because the way in which the energy flows is flowing with a different kind of energy.
Right, it's a diaphragm.
And so the way in which this flows produces different kind of energies inside of the body.
That's true. I can believe because the body is a human organism that there's energy that escapes out for quite a few, feet out from us, and that's what you're speaking on, right?
Yeah, so we have to recognize how the universe can use the energy inside each.
It's something that it takes a little bit of time, huh?
It does take time, and that's where patience comes in. That's where the process of utilizing it, the whole process of understanding the procedure of the foundation of focus in self-study has a place of discipline. So it's like the student, the teacher inside the classroom having the center place, and then we also have the energy outside. So if you take a tree, the tree has the energy inside of the tree, but beyond the tree, there's still energy.
Yeah, there's always energy. energy outside and inside.
So you have the roots here, and on the other side of the roots, you still have energy. So when one understands that energy, that actually even talks about it biblically as the golden light source of the north. Other places scientifically show this as well too. One such is the golden rule of 90.